Howdy, Ags from the tailgate, home of Aggie football. This is the coach and the delivery man. What's up, C
What's
Money?
up, Billy? Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Man, I am living the life. Living the
I
life.
bet you are.
Uh, we'll get into it here in a second. Brought to you today's episode brought to you by Frida Homes, building Aggie dreams, custom home builders with over 15 years of experience in Brazos Valley. If you're looking for someone that cares about you and the details you care about, contact Frida Homes. Visit them on Instagram at frida.homes or give Justin a call at 979-450-4466. When you call, just remember, everyone
Everyone
loves
loves
their Frida
their
homes.
Frida homes.
Love it. Folks, don't forget to email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. Send us some commentary on the YouTube page. Subscribe. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. Uh, Corey, today we're going to start with a few comments from the tailgate here. Uh, Greatest ever 370 said he loves the show and gig him. We've been having a little back and forth fun with him, and just really appreciate him being a listener. So hopefully he continues to enjoy the show, and we will try to take his suggestion of being positive from time to time.
If he loves the show now, he's gonna love it in a couple of weeks when we actually get into football season.
Show
That's when we
enough.
really get going.
Whew, it's gonna
You
get
know,
hot.
if he likes it now, just give us about a month and a half.
Yeah,
We actually have something else to talk about.
hopefully a whole lot of positive.
We
Uh,
hope so. Hope so.
Big Mike for you 2003 says, "Good news is Bobby Taylor is staying and very much locked in." So this comment obviously a reaction to Bobby pulling his name from the transfer portal, and since then apparently has been very active in social media talking about his love for the Aggies and what his commitment is. So we do appreciate Bobby. By the way, we think he's going to be a big time player if he can stay healthy. That's probably the biggest key for the guy.
Right.
Corey, recruiting, little recruiting. Last episode, we were at 16 players committed for 24 class. Uh,
Yeah.
Cameron Cameron Coleman, the 5-star wide receiver, was the latest one to commit. Right before that, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, we've added two more guys, two big time prospects. Four-star safety Miles Davis, uh,
Right.
direct competition with the folks over there at Horns Down, and also super speedster Ernest Campbell, wide receiver.
Ernest Campbell.
He's only 5'8", 150 pounds. He's rated as a 3-star right now, mostly because of his size, but the dude can run. Dude can run.
Yep.
A chain type speed. Uh,
Love it.
you know, we don't get a ton into the whole recruiting stuff. We can announce some things. Right now, the class is looking pretty strong. Keep moving up and up the rankings. We've always talked about the fact that Jimbo, this is his strong suit, baby. He can recruit. Lots of skill position in this class. I think they still need a little help up front. O line, 3 commits. D line, only 2. Probably the 2 areas where they need to focus some of their, some of their efforts going forward. But the class is really coming together. Any thoughts, Corey?
No, I mean I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I'd like to see some more linebackers. I mean, I know we have a few in there, but really get that linebacker pool going, make it so that we have some depth there.
Yeah, and they've definitely made that a focus. I think they've got 4 committed so far, if I remember correctly. So that's a pretty good linebacker haul, and I think pretty well rated guys. So very athletic. They love what they see in those guys. I uh, I they would not turn another one down. Is what I will say. If
How
they
many
could
tight
get
ends? Do you know anything about tight ends on it? I heard something they had like a lot of tight ends coming in also.
Yeah, they got a couple of tight ends in the class as well. So, I skill position wise, I think that they're doing fine. I know that they still probably need a running back in the group as well. But other than running back skill position, they're in pretty good shape. They really need to hone in on some of the fronts at this point.
Gotcha.
So today's show, Corey, we're going to focus in on SEC Media Days. Obviously, got
Yep.
started yesterday with the Aggies uh, doing their talking, and so we're going to focus our show today on what Jimbo and the A&M players said while out there at SEC Media Days. Next week, we'll briefly discuss maybe some of the other commentary around SEC Media Days from other teams and different things, as things that are interesting, non-Aggie type things, right? From SEC Media Days. But we'll also, I think we've been promising this for a couple of shows now, so maybe we'll deliver next week. We'll also start the over/under win total discussion with regards to the SEC. Next week, we'll have the SEC East in that part of the discussion. So it'll be a
Right.
very SEC East focused show. All right.
SEC East. Okay.
Yeah, the
Have to
East,
do some
baby.
homework on those guys. A lot of new faces over there.
There, yes, absolutely. I've started that process, but boy, I've got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, like almost every team has a new quarterback in the SEC East.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Florida has a new quarterback. Uh, Kentucky, Georgia. I don't know. I think Missouri might have got a new one. Can't
Missouri's
remember.
Missouri is. I think they're bringing back the guy that ended the season
Okay.
as their starter. Um,
Who else? Who are we forgetting? Who are the other three teams?
well, South Carolina's got a
Tennessee's got a new quarterback.
South,
Tennessee's got a new quarterback.
South Carolina's got their guy back,
South Carolina's got their guy back. But yeah, for the most part, and Vandy might have their guy back too, I think.
and Vandy's guy's back. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a lot of quarterback changes from the top tier.
It is, and Vandy's guy is a guy that was hurt part of the season, so he wasn't a full time starter. He was a freshman from last year that played pretty well, but wasn't the full time starter. So still a lot of transition there.
Right.
Probably leaves a lot of questions in general
Yeah,
about
really does.
how these teams are going to perform next year, right? I mean, obviously the
Well,
quarterback
I mean, you
position
look.
is key.
Well, look at last year. Georgia had their quarterback coming back. Florida had their quarterback coming back. Tennessee had their guy coming back, and they all had good seasons. Well, Florida not so much good, but he got drafted in the top 10.
Florida did not have a good season, and
They had a top tier quarterback. Kentucky had their quarterback coming back.
spoiler alert, they're not going to have a good season this year either.
Oh, oh,
Getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but yeah, I mean, look, I think there's no question, right? I mean, SEC East goes through Georgia 100%. The question is, can one of those teams that's close give them a run for their money? Can Tennessee put it together? Can a team like South Carolina put it together, right? So you have to think, all right, which one of these teams is actually going to challenge Georgia for the SEC East supremacy this year? Or
it's almost like
are
saying
any
you
of
can
them?
challenge Georgia for the SEC period. Because I mean, Georgia, everything goes through Georgia right now, does it not?
Correct, and you're right. West wise, that's also part of it, right? Anybody who makes
Yeah,
it out of the West this year, being
yeah,
the last year in which we do have divisions, whoever
right.
makes it out of the West is going to have to also do the same thing. They're going to have to prove they can beat who we assume is Georgia coming out of the East, right?
Might have a surprise pick for you there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll get further into that.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
want to give it all
so
away right now.
no, just a little teaser,
There you go. Like it, like it.
That's what they call a teaser in the business. The business.
I like it. Teaser. I'm thinking something different with a teaser, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Amen to that. Jimbo, Anais, Fidel Diggs, McKinley Jackson were the four participants from A&M at SEC Media Days. Uh, Interesting story with Smith because Anais missed last year because of the legal issues and so on and so forth. Uh,
And that
so
was just last year. It seems like it was a long time ago. I don't know.
It does feel like a long time ago. It does feel like a long time
Yeah,
ago. Today, let's start our conversations with some of the things that the players said, and then we'll sort of maneuver through those things first, and then end up with Jimbo. And uh, I want to start with one thing, and we talked about this a little bit on the show, but just everybody had incredible things to say about Coach Terry Price. Um, I'll tell you, and it came from Aggies and it came from non-Aggies. It's just impressive the level of respect that he gets from, his players, his fellow coaches, folks outside of that, the media and everything else. Just another great shout out to Terry Price on that.
All right. Yep.
Uh, the other thing I want to sort of put out there is, during the actual SEC Media Day interviews, the main sessions on the main floor, when those guys were sitting up there and doing their thing, not a lot really was said, which I don't guess is a surprise when you talk about Jimbo having a press conference. But the reality of the fact is that not much was said. Having said that,
Jimbo never says anything.
no,
he,
he doesn't.
he never does. He says how great everybody is, and that's always Jimbo.
Having said that, we're going to talk about it for an hour.
Oh, great.
All right, so let's start with Anais, man. And first
All right.
thing, you know, that stood out to me with Anais' comments, there was a few things. But first thing is how much he loves being the underdog. And he believes after last year that A&M is the underdog going into 23. He's a guy that came out of high school with a lot of doubters, 3-star, undersized, all those things. And he used that for his motivation to be the player that he's become. I mean, he got on the field as a freshman to make plays, right? He's been
Right.
huge against teams like Alabama that's loaded with 5 stars and just continues to uh, continues to impress consistently, right? To me.
Yeah.
And so this belief in his head, I don't know, it's sort of a cool thing, maybe.
I don't understand the underdog role. How A&M's considered underdog. If you look at the roster, we got one of the most talented rosters in the nation. I wouldn't say underdog. I say underachieving team is what they are. He goes, we're coming in as the underdogs. No, you're more the underachievers is what you are. It's
it,
it's two different things. Underdogs are people that probably shouldn't be there. People aren't giving them much credit. Well, the Aggies have gotten credit for the players they have. They just haven't executed and done a good job coaching or fielding a team that's competitive.
and that's
Sorry, I'm
that's
not trying to be Mr. Negative here, but what I'm saying is, as the underdog, I don't see them as the underdogs. You take Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, and you say these guys are underdogs. No, they're not underdogs. They're
yeah,
not.
and that's a good point because you also hear folks outside of the program that do all this prognosticating and saying what's going on, and everybody is on the A&M bandwagon right now.
Yeah,
We talked
absolutely.
about it with Phil Steele saying that they're one of the ones competing for an SEC West championship. You talk
Yeah,
about SEC Mike, the guy at that SEC podcast, and he's got A&M very high on his list. So the fact that the truth is that the outside, the media, the national folks, they don't consider A&M an underdog. They're giving
no,
them,
that's what I'm saying. I don't see where he gets this underdog thing from. I don't see it. I mean,
but
if you go to Vanderbilt, you could say, yeah, we're the underdogs.
those guys are underdogs. But that doesn't change the fact that an underdog mentality is not a bad thing, though, right? Because
No, not
if
at all.
if that's the way they approach it, that means that they're working their butts off to be better, right?
But now, see, Anais is one of the few guys that was the underdog. He was a 3-star coming in, had to prove himself. You got some of the top 5 stars in the nation coming to A&M these days. They're not used to that. They're probably not even used to losing. That's what's killing these guys, and it
they're
might give them a little shock and be like, hey, man, these guys, everybody we're playing is good too.
they're
They're not
definitely
used to
not
that.
underdogs, right?
Yeah, the word underdog is just it's a weird word. I'd say more underachieving.
Yeah. The next thing, and really the only real football related thing that I think was said here, and probably the one takeaway on this end is the offense is going to be more up tempo. We've heard this before.
Yeah,
Anaya says much faster. More up tempo, much faster. Thoughts?
Man, it's the same thing as always. Just got to wait and see it because we hear it year after year after year. More up tempo, more pace, more. You know what I'm saying? More decisive. Does that make sense? Like you get up there, you get the ball, you snap it within a few seconds, not almost at the end of the play clock. You look more decisive. But yeah, until they show me on the field, I'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we've heard that before, right? We heard it last year. We heard it, the year before. Oh, this thing's going to move
Exactly.
faster. We're going to be quicker. We're going to be more of tempo. We're going to use tempo more. We're going to take back off when we need to. Blah 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 blah. All these different things, right? And at the end of the day, we've seen the result. Now, clearly, this year there's a difference because we have a different offensive coordinator. We're going to talk, in depth about Bobby Petrino here in a little bit. But I guess it does give us that hope. Once again, we talked about it last week. The hope because of Petrino.
Right. No,
His,
that's great.
he commented also how much he loves both of the quarterbacks, and both meaning clearly Connor and Johnson, right? And
Right.
so, he did say that in game he hasn't worked much with Connor. He played a little bit with Johnson at the beginning of the season, early last year, during practice and those things, but he hasn't had a whole lot of time with Connor on the field. Their chemistry needs to be developed substantially over the next couple of months, very clearly, right? Because if they can do
Right.
that, that's the kind of player Anias is. He's the kind of player that's going to make, with chemistry, he can make plays basically every down. He can always get the ball right. He can always get open.
Oh yeah, he's always open. So I mean, he'll be fine. Connor will find him.
There was also another interesting comment by Anias. They asked him what his favorite position is, whether he likes to be out wide, in the slot, in the backfield. And his response, I am best playing defense.
God,
What do you take away from that?
I don't want to hear that from one of my best offensive weapons. I'm better on defense. I mean, what's he going to be, a cornerback, a safety? What's he
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
You think he can play linebacker?
I think he's a DB. Yeah. Look, he,
I mean, I could see it, but I
he
mean,
was
I
so
just
excited when he said it too.
uh,
He also brought
yeah,
up the return game, so I do think as far as defense, I don't anticipate, unless we have substantial number of injuries, that he's going to see any time on the defensive side of the ball. But in the return game, based off of his commentary, I do think that we're going to see him quite a bit there, right? And he loves being in the open space and being able to make plays.
yeah. I don't even know who our other option is this year. Who's our other option at returner? You think it's gonna be
Uh,
one of the running backs or?
yeah, I do think so. And Evan Stewart obviously is a guy there. Moose has done some return game stuff as well.
Yeah, I could see Stewart. His shiftiness. I think he'd be good too. He's pretty shifty.
Oh yeah. Heck, look at the opportunity for maybe a couple of these freshmen to get
Freshman.
in
You're right.
the game. Maybe a guy like Micah Tease, who's a speedster. So I think there are some guys in there that can make some plays with the ball in their hands.
Right.
The last takeaway from Anias, and we'll sort of wrap this up. But I just love how much he appreciates being an Aggie. They asked him about the reasons why he didn't go to the NFL, what the considerations were, and you could just hear him talk about those things, and you just appreciate how much he loves playing college football and how much he appreciates being an Aggie, and I love him for that. And then his last, and this may become a little bit of then the question was posed to him: what is going to make this season better? His
Did he say
response:
coaching? Did he say coaching?
better leadership. Okay,
I wonder if he meant like coaching.
I I think that he should have meant coaching, but I don't think
I'd
that's
love
where
to
he was
see these
going.
guys be honest and be like, what's going to be better this year? He goes, God, I hope the coaching's better. I hope the play calling's better because it sucked last year. I'd love to see one of these guys have the balls to come
And
out there and say that.
and we're going to come back to that because as we go through this, you're going to see a little bit of a pattern. All right, so McKinley Jackson got up there. Once again, McKinley, uh,
Love that guy.
love that guy. Just a personality, a dude. He did say he was the flyest looking dude in the SEC media days.
Probably
Look,
was.
he's up there and he tells everybody. He says, "Look, I don't worry about me. I don't worry about me. He doesn't worry about himself because he always goes hard,
Yeah.
and there's no worries about that. So he's worried about
And there's video to prove that. There is video to prove that. He can back it up. That's what I'm talking about.
love it. And so
Me
he
too.
says,
Man, I love to watch that guy play.
I worry about my teammates now. I'm worried about my teammates. I got to push them, and make them better, even if I got to if they get mad at me.
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was all about consistency and complementary football and pushing the other guys in on the team, defend, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Thoughts?
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think that's what we missed when he was hurt. I mean, you can see. I mean, he's not a Walter Nolan or Turner or one of those guys athletically. He doesn't. He's not as big as they are, But that guy just doesn't stop on any play. That's what I love about him. You and I'd be watching the game like, man, Jackson's 10 yards downfield making a play. He's getting double teamed, but still going 100%. There's some guys get double teamed, they just kind of get out of the play.
And not to
He doesn't stop.
mention, not to mention, the dude clearly made a big difference for this defense when he showed up, right? Like that
Right.
defense got better when he was on the field, and there's no question about that.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that you brought up Walter Nolan because one of his comments was, Walter, that dude is a unicorn. One of the greatest talents he's ever seen or played with. Combination of
Wow.
size, strength, athleticism. He can do everything.
Wow. Did Jackson play with Liao?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty big because Liao was like a freaking, they called him the freak. Remember how all
Oh
the
yeah.
shit he could do athletically? And that's pretty big saying Nolan's a unicorn.
Pretty impressive, right? I mean,
That is.
and he was talking about guys not only he's played along with but played against. So guys from other teams that he's seen. Like his whole point was this dude is a freak, like you said, but like one of a kind, right?
Yeah. So
I
he's probably telling Nolan he needs to step up, is what he's trying to say right there. He's like, Nolan, I'm putting you on blast right now.
yeah,
You better have a good season.
and I would expect that he's and he did talk about the fact that how much he's improved over the offseason and he expects a big year for him this year. But he said,
Yeah.
and then even a bigger year from him next year. Now we're not worried about 24 yet. Let's get
No.
this 23 thing done. But that does excite you to hear that about a Walter Nolan, who everybody knows was a special guy coming out of high school, that he's gotten to the point where one of the probably best returning defensive tackles in the SEC is talking about him as a unicorn.
Yep. It's amazing.
And then the last thing is, once again, what's going to make this season different? Better leadership.
So when they say leadership, I'm just going to start saying coaching whenever they say that.
and
I like it.
And let me tell you, when they were talking better leadership, they were talking about themselves, right, within the team.
I don't think they were. I don't think they were. That's me thinking.
Fidel Diggs
I
shows
didn't
up, man.
interview you. I'm going by what you're saying. But when somebody says leadership, I'm thinking Jimbo. I'm thinking every coach on that staff needs to do a better job.
I mean, that's what I think.
Right.
We'll go further into that. Diggs, Fidel shows up. He's the other guy. Couple of interesting comments from Fidel. One, they talked to him about which quarterback he thinks really causes problems in the SEC, which is one of the guys that's caused problems for him. And he says, "Oh, that quarterback at Ole Miss, is it Dart?" Which sort of goes to show you these guys don't really necessarily know what else is going on around them other than their own position, their own thing, their own guys, right? Like, whatever, man. I got mine. Uh,
I think it's funny that the three guys that they sent to him missed significant time last year from injuries, and I mean, you look at Jackson, you look at Ananias and Diggs.
that's a great
They
point.
all three played maybe half the season last year.
Half a season apiece. That's about right.
Jesus.
Uh, that is an interesting choice. Um, but he did give a little bit of respect to Dart, obviously. What do you think about Dart? You think Dart's going to have a big year this year?
I'm not even sure he's going to start for him.
I think he's going to start.
I mean, they brought in that Oklahoma State quarterback, right?
Yeah, he's going to sit the bench.
That was I don't see how they could that guy get that guy, and I don't know.
Uh,
I don't think
I
Dart's going to be great.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in the transfer portal before the season starts.
Who Dart?
No, the Oklahoma State guy, Sanders.
Sanders?
Yeah.
I don't know. We might have to make a little wager on that one.
Ooh, I like where that's going. So Fidel also brought up the fact, that the offensive line apparently is working together a lot better, and then that the offense in general was making more plays. Any thoughts on any of that?
What are you supposed to say if you ask that question? The offensive line is playing better. I mean, it'd be funny if he came out and said, "No, the offensive line still sucks. These guys are awful. They oh, we're screwed."
And
He can't say that,
out of curiosity,
huh?
does that mean that our defensive line sucks?
I'm just saying exactly. If our defensive line can't get any pressure on our offensive line, and
Whew, it's gonna
oh,
be a long season, buddy.
long season shit. I mean, yeah, it just drives me nuts. I mean, I don't know what they're supposed to say. If these guys are supposed to say, I'm sure Jimbo gives these guys a little script to read for a little bit and says, go kind of like this. Yeah,
Along,
talk about the O line is
yep.
better. Yeah,
And here's the thing, then the
I'm sure
last
he said
piece
something
is
about leadership,
better leadership.
better
Also,
coaching,
better leadership.
better
So,
coaching.
we've just talked about it with all three of these guys, and every one of these guys being an upperclassman, right? And supposedly, the whole story about better leadership within the team, the players, better leadership from the upperclassmen, from the players, right? That's
All right.
You can tell that this was something they were all told is part of what our story, the Aggie story for 2023 has to be, and that's what we're telling. This is not by this is by design, not coincidence, right?
All right, that's what I'm saying. It's been well. I hope that works out. It's almost like the Jimbo don't want to take accountability for his actions. Let's put it on. Hey, these guys aren't leaders. I
And
just
so
think it's funny.
let's go to that. We're gonna go to Jimbo now, and obviously here we're gonna talk about a lot of the stuff he said. He had the longest talk, obviously, of any of these guys. But the first thing I will say about his conversation is same old, same old. Nothing changed. He's still talking about execution. He still talks about blaming, just like you said, no accountability. Blames everything from last year on a lack of leadership, on youth, on injuries. This year's going to be better. Why? Because better leadership. Specifically, he says it's not about scheme, it's not about play calling. Look, all excuses, no accountability. Once again, Jimbo, same old crap, still coming out of his mouth. I'll let you chime in.
No, I mean that's what we've been saying year after year after year is that he finds excuses to put it on other people. They're not executing. They're not executing. Well, now they're not leaders. We don't have leaders out there. Jimbo, that's your job. You're the coach. You're the leader. You need to push these guys. You can't make a guy be a leader. I mean, you can put him in a position to be a leader, and if he's not a leader, he's not a leader. Does that make sense?
And listen, they
I mean,
can't lead anybody if you don't put them in a position to be successful in the first place, right? Like,
exactly.
they're going to lead
And
them
then,
right into the crappy play that you called, first of all.
yeah, and that's all I'm reading. Everything I see about better leadership, it starts with Jimbo. That's where the leadership starts. And
And
every
he,
time these players say better leadership, that's why I'm saying better coaching,
and here's the
better
thing:
play calling.
the first thing they go tell those players, by the way, oh, you have to be more accountable. You've got to be accountable for yourself. Accountable, accountable, accountable. Accountable means for yourself, right? And
Yeah.
what do you think those players think when that dude is sitting over there and he's preaching accountability, and he doesn't take any of his own.
That's the way it is, man. Rolls downhill, right?
Well, that's true. Except he's got nobody rolling it downhill on him because his contract's guaranteed. So
Yep.
here's the other thing that bothered me about the conversation. Nothing he says has any meaning whatsoever. There's no truth to it. How do I know there's no truth? Because when he talks about, they ask him about his coaching staff. Every coach he talks about is the greatest coach ever. I mean, like 100%, 100% compliments to the, like this guy is from here to the moon as a coach, And when
You
you
think
say
Adagio did a great job with the offensive line last year? He's a great coach after
great coach,
last year's performance.
oh, Adazio is a great coach, and
The
that's my
freaking
point.
defensive coordinator was a great coach for throwing a 3-man line out there halfway throughout the season to I love it. Go ahead.
And it's not just with the coaches, right? And here's the other one. Every player he talks about, man, they've had the greatest offseason. They look great. They're ready. They're going to be the greatest player. Every single one. At one point, they asked him about the freshmen, and he literally said, "Did I leave anybody out? They all look great." Like it loses
See,
meaning when
I like to have a coach like that comes out there and tells me the truth. So and so doesn't look like he's been in the weight room this year. He's added a few pounds, a little bit slower on the field. Just anything. Just like Walter Nolan. Has Walter progressed? Well, maybe not to where we wanted him to. That's what a leader does to me. He pushes people, and he doesn't say things to like push them away from the team, but to give them a reason to get better.
yeah, he doesn't have to be like insulting or anything like that, but
Yeah,
he,
tell the
I mean,
truth.
tell the truth and let people know that there is some improvement still needed. We still do need to work our
Yeah,
butts off in this area, whatever it may be, right? This guy listen, it all loses any meaning and context if everybody gets the same compliment, right? Oh, he's great. Oh,
exactly.
he's great. Oh, he's great.
I want Jimbo to come out and tell me the truth. Jimbo, we going 12-0 this year? No, why not? What you said everybody's great, the coach is great. Why can't we go undefeated, win the championship? What are you trying to say?
And here's the
Well,
thing,
then
Corey.
the truth should come out, be like, well, Connor's only his second season, he's not getting all the reads. Well, tell us that. That's what I want to know.
And here's the thing,
I want
Corey.
to hear it.
If every player is great and every coach on his staff is great, who gets the blame for the 5-7 season?
The athletic department,
Who's
AD.
who's left? It's him, right?
So that's what
Every,
I'm saying. I agree with you. I'm totally agreeing with you.
it just takes any meaning out of what he says. Whatever. I mean, I'm not telling him to go insult a bunch of players and coaches. I'm just saying don't tell these stories making people think or wanted to try to make people believe that this is the case because you're insulting the public, right? You're insulting Aggie
Right.
fans. That's an insult.
Right.
I will say this: during the sessions with ESPN, he finally admitted that yes, he's giving the play calling duties to Petrino, right? But it's so funny because every time they've been asked this in sort of these different settings, like he's ashamed. He's ashamed to admit that he's given up this play calling, right? He's ashamed that he's no longer the offensive guru, so he has to
Yeah.
sort of hide it. Like, oh, well, we're still, this and that. It's a collaborative effort. It's about this. Like, just say it. Yes, we brought Bobby here to call the offense. He's going to be calling the offense.
Right.
But no, he's got it in 17,000 words. Like, look, don't be ashamed of it, man. Buy in, right? Buy in. Nick Saban gave up play calling for the defense, I promise you, years and years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he's
Worked
not
out pretty
part
well.
of. Yeah, he oversees a program. He makes sure that those kids are practicing their butts off, staying out of trouble, doing all those other things. He's in the offensive meetings. He's in the defensive meetings. He's providing input there, but he ain't worried about defending the fact that he's not calling defensive plays.
No, I agree with you, man. It's Jimbo's time to be the boss and actually be the boss instead of the play caller. And he can hold Petrino accountable if he knows how to do that. If he knows how to go to I'd be like, hey, this is on you. You called the wrong play here. You had the wrong alignments. Things weren't ready. We weren't organized. Last year, that was on Jimbo. You saw him calling timeout after timeout after timeout in the first quarter because they weren't prepared.
And here's the thing, though. As this season goes along, and there's going to be mistakes made, bad plays called, and all this stuff, I think the offense is going to be much better. Don't get me wrong. He cannot turn around and just go throw Bobby Petrino under the bus, which he likes to do. He's got to say, hey, look, this was our game plan. This is what we decided to do. It didn't work out this time. We're going to make some adjustments and go move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will give him this. He's 100% correct in one thing. It's always a collaborative effort. Anybody that's coached on an offensive staff or a defensive staff knows that all these guys with these headsets and the microphones in their headsets are sitting there and they have some, not necessarily a lot all the time, some input into what's going on, whether it's between series, whether it's, usually in between play calling, it's not as much because you only have so much time, right? You have a very limited number of people that are involved in it. But all those things come into play, and he is right. It is collaborative. The game planning is collaborative. All those things are true. But when it comes to the every down, every play, there's somebody assigned to that. In this case, it's Bobby, right?
Right.
He also mentioned that they are going to add another coach with the passing of Terry Price. They'll add another coach. They'll probably make an announcement sometime in the next few weeks. One of the things that I don't know how much stock you can put into it because of the way he addressed everybody, but he was very complimentary of the running back room. It's interesting to me. Daniels, he referred to as a guy that's just a natural runner. Moss, man, lots of praise for Moss. Oh, that guy's got everything. Speed, power, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he really was throwing down some praise there. And then with Owens, he was talking about the fact that the offseason's really done him good to get his body ready to play in college ball. Like he's put on some weight, put on some good muscle mass. Thoughts about the running back room, Corey?
Man, we didn't get to see a whole lot of them the last year, but I'm excited about it. I mean, I think like we said before, Daniels and Moss will start the season, but we think Owens will, the 5-star running back will end up taking over towards maybe, I don't know, after the first quarter to half of the season.
Yeah, he does have a certain, I don't know, just natural sort of feel for the game that you don't see from a lot of the backs. So, I do expect him to increase his usage as the year goes along. But the way Jimbo talks about Moss, maybe that guy takes over. Who knows?
Maybe. As long as the offensive line does well, I think the running backs will be just fine. I'd love to have a 2 or 3 headed monster like Georgia does, and it doesn't matter who you put out there; they're going to be productive.
Correct, and they each have some strengths and they each have some weaknesses, and you let them go play.
Right, exactly.
He talked about Marcel Reed, the freshman quarterback, also who's been on campus, by the way, and very gifted athlete, which I think we knew that coming in. Seeing what he did in high school, the dude can do that. But he was also very complimentary of his throwing ability. Once again, you have to take it all with a grain of salt because, according to him, everybody's great.
Right.
But very natural thrower of the football. And he's also had a pretty good offseason in the sense that he's put on some good weight and muscle mass. I'll tell you, I like a lot of things, a lot of the attributes that Marcel Reed brings to the table. And I love the fact that he can sit for 2 years and then take over the reins after Connor decides to head to the next level.
Right. I agree with you. I like that too.
And so let's talk a little bit about offensive line because that's one of the next things that he brought up. And I am so sick and tired of this sort of narrative that, hey, Bryce Foster's back. This offensive line is going to be so much better because of him. You know, this whole idea that Bryce Foster is the guy that's going to make the transformation here on this offensive line, to me, is a little ridiculous and a little revisionist too, because and you hear it from Jimbo yesterday, you hear it from Texags all the time, you hear it from the national media all the time. You know, these guys, you know, it's like Foster invented offensive line play, you know?
Right.
The
What's it
fact
done?
is, the fact is he hasn't done a darn thing with an Aggie uniform on, right? The dude has gotten injured every year. Last year, by the way, the best game we played was against LSU, right?
He didn't play.
Wyckoff was the starting offensive center for that
Yep.
team.
He
Um,
gone.
so, you know, I think it's sort of revisionist history about everything that Foster has done. If you are a real offensive line guy, and I don't have anything against Foster. I certainly do hope that he is greatly improved and he takes the reins as the center and leads this offensive line. I hope this is his year as a junior to come in, stay healthy, and dominate. I do. There is nothing I want more.
No, I agree with you. And the thing about Foster, he has all the tools to be a great player. It's like you said, he has to stay healthy. I think he has to be a little bit more committed. But playing
And
center is a tough position. It's one
that's a
of the toughest
great
positions.
point. You know what you just said, and I want you to elaborate on that. More committed. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, more committed. I mean, yeah, he likes track and he likes throwing the shot and the discus or whatever he does. Man, it's I don't. This is football. This is. I mean, I don't know how much training you have to do to throw the shot, put the discus. I don't know. I never did it. But this is a team sport that we're talking about. And you need to be part of the team. You got to be out there. You're a junior now. They're talking about leadership. You need to. I'm not saying you need to be a leader, but you need to show the guys that you're committed, that you're in there. You need to be fighting the fight every day.
You
That's
know,
what I
and
got.
and that's a great point because this dude hasn't practiced with this team since like early last fall. Think about that.
Yeah,
And he's supposed to be the savior. He's gonna be the savior. The dude
there
hasn't
can't be
practiced
any
a snap.
cohesion. You can't have cohesion if you don't practice or play together. Then they want them to be a better cohesive unit on the offensive line. That's what they're about, is working together. You can't
Yeah.
when one guy's out, especially the center of it, the body. No,
It takes a lot. And look, once again, I am not trying to kill Bryce Foster. I'm not. But
I'm
the
not
fact
either.
of the fact of the matter is, he's got to be available, and he's still got a lot of improvement to make. And
Right.
part of that is on his coach Steve Adazio because the entire offensive line struggles with some of the same things that Foster struggles with, right?
It's true.
We've said it once, we've said it 1,000 times. If this offensive line plays well, this offense is going to be exceptional. Not good, exceptional. If the offensive line is okay, they're going to be good offensively. The offensive line is bad, all bets are off. All bets are
Right.
off. They have the talent. They have the talent. You know, I think that not only that, they've got the pieces around them to take some pressure off because people are going to have to pay attention to those wide receivers. They're going to have to pay attention to those tight ends. They're going to have to pay attention to those running backs. So they shouldn't have so much pressure on them up front in the sense that they can't just, go bring everybody because you leave those guys one on one, brother. Good luck. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're getting burnt.
Um, and then just kind of at the end of that to sort of wrap up Jimbo's commentary and sort of everything there. Just generally, man, kind of every time I listen to him talk, I lose faith in the dude a little bit more. honestly. And I know that how hard that is to do, considering my faith in him is not real high right now. But
Right.
they preach to the players basically, hey, look, this is all about better leadership, better leadership, better leadership. But they haven't taken it upon themselves to provide any better leadership, any accountability.
Yeah.
And when he opens his mouth, he makes that clear.
So
After
it sounds like you gathered out of the press conference that Jimbo's still the same old Jimbo, spitting out the same old stuff he spits out every year.
All right, so you tell me, you tell me. After listening to all this stuff and the discussions that they've had,
Yeah.
what do you take away for this team going into 2023?
What are my takeaways for 2022?
Yeah, did
One of my
SEC
biggest
media
takeaways.
days
I
did
mean,
SEC media days change anything with regards to what you're thinking?
no, no. My biggest thing is the guys need to stay healthy because the health was a big issue last year. But I mean, I don't know whose issue that is. Is it something they didn't train right? Did they not practice right? I don't know. Did they not eat right? I mean, I don't know. Health is a big issue. Coaching's a big issue. He shouldn't have brought anybody with him to the media days except for him and Petrino and all his coaches and put them up there and said, "Yeah, we sucked last year." Not Petrino so much, but I'm talking about Adazio and had him up on the pedestal.
Adazio, Durkin.
Yeah, put them up there and let those guys talk. I got somebody at my front
you,
door right now.
and that's a great point. Honestly, one of these days, I just want to hear him say, "Hey, look, we got to do a better job as coaches. You know, if we coach
Mm-hmm.
better and put our guys in better positions to succeed, we probably win all these games. Just take it. By the
Right?
way, hey, look, your contract's guaranteed either way, so don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Questions from the tailgate brought to you by David Coffin PLLC, tax controversy and litigation lawyers. All right. Question number one here, Corey.
Yeah.
What is the least number of regular season wins the Aggies can have, and the fans should be happy with it?
The least
And
we
not
won
just
5 games last year. Jimbo came back. Jimbo does a press conference like this on SEC media days and tells them everything's just hunky dory. Going on that, me as a Aggie fan, I'll be disappointed if we don't win 9 games. I'll be disappointed with the talent we have and what we built, and with Petrino coming in. If we don't win at least nine, I'll
minimum.
say this, huh?
That's minimum.
Minimum 9 games. And I'm pushing. I was thinking 10 at first, but 9. I'll go with 9.
You know what? And so
But
if they don't win 9, they should fire him.
I was comfortable with that last year when we only won 5.
Yeah, they should have fired him after 5.
I'm not looking to ride this roller coaster. I don't want a roller coaster. I
you
want a
know,
rocket ship. I want going straight up.
I'm gonna go 10. I'm gonna go 10.
All right.
I think the
So if we
talent
don't win
on
10 games, goes fired. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, if we win 9, he should be fired. Because you give me 3 teams that he should lose to. 3 teams with better talent. Name 3 teams on that schedule with better talent.
And that's even after what he said at SEC media days. That's what I'm saying. He says it. Now go back it up, Jimbo. You
Go
got
back
the
it up.
greatest player, great coaching staff. You're a great coach, evidently. Back it up. Go show us. Quit talking about it. I'm
Quit
tired of
talking.
him talking about
Quit talking. Shut your mouth
it. Exactly.
and go put the product on the field. Period.
Exactly.
You don't win 10 games, you should resign. That's what I say. Um,
Exactly. Should be in his contract.
Question number 2. There was an article by Fansided put out a list of breakout candidates for A&M. They did 3. They did Ruben Owens, Walter Nolan, Evan Stewart. Sort of like easy peasy breakout candidates. By the way, Evan Stewart I think
Yeah.
broke out pretty well last year.
Yeah.
And Ruben Owens, the 5-star freshman. Okay, great
Yeah.
bigs. But I was thinking, and this actually is the reason I got this on here. And man, if you look at every position group,
Yeah.
there are potential breakout candidates for this team, right?
Right.
One, because of the fact that we played like crap last year, and
Right.
two, because there's incredible amounts of talent. But think about quarterback. I mean, Connor could be a breakout guy, right?
Right.
Wide receiver. I don't know if you can consider Moose. I think Moose is in the same boat as Evan and Stewart after last year. Like his
Yeah, I think
performance
Anias is up
was,
there too. It's kind of hard for
you know,
them to be breakouts because they've already had good seasons.
yeah, they've done it, right? But
But
Thomas,
now Thomas, yeah, Thomas,
or a guy like Tease or Cottrell, the two freshmen, they could potentially. I mean, it's going to be hard for those freshmen to break into that rotation this year, but
yeah, it is.
potentially. How about Preston?
Right.
Would you consider Preston a breakout candidate?
Dude, he had a couple of breakout games already in his career and just
Yeah.
never gets to get on the field.
I think
I mean, he had a 200-yard receiving game against LSU 2 years ago or something like that, and then couldn't get back on the field. I don't get it.
I've never understood that.
I don't either.
All three of the running backs are breakout candidates. There's no question that at tight end, Theo Johnson. I mean, you can name a couple of them, right? At offensive
Yeah.
line, Zune, Nobu, Strickland, Fothery, Dewberry. They didn't start
Right.
the year last year. On the defense, the list is just as long. Defensive line, you could damn near name everybody, right? With
Right.
Nolan, Shamar Turner, Stewart, White, Silla, Overton, Hicks. I mean, there's so many of them. At linebacker, whoever plays well is a breakout because nobody's played well at linebacker for this team.
That's what I'd like to see. Cooper, I guess.
It could be Cooper. How about Harris, Martrell Harris, or
Yeah.
Sanford or York, one of the freshmen. All those guys. Anderson in the defensive backfield. I think he's
Right.
dude. You want to talk about a top 3 breakout guy? That guy's on the list. There's no question. Gilbert started all last year. It's sort of hard to call him a breakout guy, but I don't know. Matthews or Kerr, who was in and out of the lineup, both of those guys at safety, have an opportunity to do that. So that there's so many. What's exciting to me is talent-wise, there's so many guys that could fit that bill, right?
Oh, absolutely. We got a bunch of NFL prospects on this roster.
And Nolan's a unicorn, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Corey. Well, next week we're gonna do a little over/unders. The betting world, your bread and butter. Get excited.
I'm ready.
Get excited.
I'm ready. Yep.
Gig 'em Aggies. Corey, AP, signing out from the tailgate.